At the beginning of the year, I looped up the NR200P dual rad system, and good things come to an end. So today we're saying goodbye to it. Just wanted to share some final thoughts on the setup as I tear this machine apart. Welcome to Machines and More. Just a quick longer term update today. As you can see, it's come time to disassemble this loop here, and I'm partway through that process and cleaning up some of the parts here. It's been running for the better part of the year, almost 11 months now as my personal gaming rig, and yeah, it's kind of a bummer to see it have to come apart, but the good news is it's not coming apart because it sucked, but onwards and upwards. Plus, I need that ASUS board for the upcoming C14S revisited video in the NR200, so that's where some of this stuff is headed. Eventually, I'll be building a loop in the MAX also, so I'll share a few thoughts about that towards the end of this update. So overall, this build worked out really well. And the two rads here, even though they're thinner rads with the slim Noctua A12x15s, this was more than enough to handle the 5600X. If you remember, I started out with the 3900X, and that worked out fine too. And it had the 2070 here, and while gaming, I had the fans less than 1100 RPM at most, and it was a very quiet system. You can see this coolant is still pretty good. It's got a nice rich purple color still, so in that department it's been great, but as with a lot of premix and soft tubing, this EK Duraclear soft tubing did get pretty cloudy, and this does tend to happen over time. But I want to say my experience with straight distilled has been way better than premix, and this XL5 stuff is supposedly just rebranded Mayhem's coolant, so it's nothing revolutionary there. But after 11 months, I guess it's okay and somewhat expected, but I probably won't do this particular combo again, and I'll just stick to EK Cryo Fuel if I want some tint, and I know some folks go with ZMT for that reason too. So I've been pretty happy with the Optimus Foundation AM4 block. You really don't need anything so crazy for the 5600X, but I think these blocks just look so good, and they're so well made, and this will be walking over to the loop on the MAX. Now these two TX240s probably won't be needed for that build, but I'll migrate one of these over to the Lianli Q58 when I'm ready for a loop in that case eventually. With this setup, I haven't had any dust issues. All the intake points, they had dust filters over them, and because I modded the top tray to fit the rad, I did pry the top cover off once to rinse out the dust that was stuck in the holes, just to keep the performance up. And that's one of the huge pluses of doing the dual rad this way versus just installing the rad directly to the cover. The mods were absolutely worth it, and just having the flexibility for the positioning of the rad for the initial build was worth it right away. And having had the opportunity to give this a longer term workout and test, I'd absolutely recommend this dual rad setup if you're thinking about doing something like this. The NR200 is just a really great template for this type of SFF project, and with a top and a bottom rad setup, I think visually it's very streamlined, and from the performance perspective, it's worked out really well as a positive pressure setup. Now, at one point I wanted to convert it over to a hardline build, but I got busy with the other content here on the channel, so we'll revisit that possibility in the MAX build. So what am I planning for the MAX? Well, most likely I'm going to be migrating the CPU and the GPU from the Meshlicious Tradewinds build over, so that'll be a 5800X and a 3070 build. And while I personally wouldn't specifically buy a MAX case just to do a custom loop, for sure if you have a use for the 280, or you know someone who could use it, or you can sell the AIO to recoup some of that cost, then yeah, I think it might make financial sense from that perspective. But one reason you might be looking there is that particular vertical GPU placement, right? So at least the top rad is going to have more room, and most likely I'll do the GTS 240 there, along with two Fantex T30s, and then for the bottom, I'm going to do a 120 with a 25mm fan. Normally the GPU is going to impede if you have a 30mm rad and a 25mm fan there, but the 3070 FE block is so short. It's like 185 to the fitting section, so I'm fairly confident it'll work. Plus, there's enough space under the power supply if I do the cable management really well. And then for the pump, also because of that shorter block, I'm going to be testing out the new EK-ACF 80 DDC version there. I've been meaning to take a look at that pump for a while, and I've already checked out the fit. Dimensionally, it all works. The question at this point is just what that tubing run might look like, and I've been toying with the idea of a parallel loop versus a serial loop. But even though it's just a 120 plus a 240, with T30s and hopefully a Chromax NF812x25, that's going to have some serious cooling potential. And I'm pretty confident from a noise normalized basis, it's going to blow this system out of the water there. And yeah, just a quick update today. We'll say goodbye to the dual Rad NR200P for now. I'm going to go finish taking this apart and cleaning the parts out, but hey, subscribe if you haven't already if you like this sort of stuff. And if you have any ideas or custom loop goodies that you want to recommend or you want to see tested, please let me know down below in the comments. And thanks for watching today.